Hello, it's Ren Presents time. I'm your host, Ren, and today we continue with the 6th turn of the Shadowtech Goddess, subtitled Cat. Part 3, Chapter 7, Those Who Were Remembered. This is the final chapter in Part 3 of the book. Next week we proceed to Part 4, naturally, which is known as Bella Thouser. And that is the final part of the book as we ratchet it up to an exciting conclusion. We still have a lot of book to go, but we are getting there. Last week, Lord Stenstrom grudgingly acknowledged that he is growing fond of their waif from the bush of Cat. And that's something he never would have expected or anticipated. This disheveled, stinky lady from the bush working her way into his heart, necessarily. Not necessarily as a love interest, but as a friend, as a student, as he's teaching her how to read and write. Professor Sherlamp was completely dispitiated by this situation and was going to try to bump her off at the fashionable IBBAANA Ball in Bern. Didn't happen. Belmont and Cat escape unscathed. And now we proceed to the final part. The final chapter, Chapter 7, Those Who Were Remembered. Let's dig in, shall we? Soon after the IBBAANA party, all the restrictions Stenstrom had placed upon Cat were removed. She now had freedom to roam the manor and its grounds, and Stenstrom was eager to take her on a guided tour. It was a beautiful, clear fall day, the surrounding countryside festive in reds and golds. He had started off showing her the cliffs by the sea, always very pretty but quite dangerous, very steep, and studded with picturesque but deadly rocks, with a precipitous 100-foot drop to the thin, rocky beach far below. The beach itself was dangerous, just a tiny fingernail of land, with the constant churning gray surf replete with hidden rocks just beneath the surface, and deadly undertows ready to sweep away the unwary. The harsh Tyrol coastline was certainly not for tourists. Stenstrom was careful with Cat as she fearlessly leaned over the edge, the long fall just a step away, gently taking her about the waist, steadying her footing. Without missing a beat, Cat slid out of his grasp. Balancing on the edge, she girded the skirt of her blue dress to her knees and went over the side. He was amazed how she could nimbly traverse the sheer cliffs, bounding from one outcropping to the next, to finally the rocky beach far below. She stood there and waved, and then came back up again just as fast. She was filthy and grinning, her shoes missing, not unusual with Cat. Taking her arm, Stenstrom walked her around the sprawling grounds of Belmont Manor, allowing her to appreciate the great brick-and-mortar rectangle, 5 floors high, emblazoned with proud white-paned windows and topped with a sloped, cranked-in roof decorated in fanciful stone loops and arches. He had to keep Cat from climbing it. There would be time enough later for that. He led her down the hill from the manor to Old Tyrol Road, running south to the distant city of Conwell, and north into Tyrol, where it ended in the city square. He had promised to take Cat to Tyrol to show her all the old places his mother once loved, the shops, the squares, the city within a city a few outsiders ever saw, a place full of mystery and wonder. Stenstrom was eager to show it all to Cat. On the other side of the road, heading inland from the sea, was a steep cone-shaped hill, covered in trim grass, all turning gold with the season. This is Merian's hill. It's the tallest hill for miles around. Though I despise mountains, I love hills. They feel more comfortable to me. Cat trudged at his side. "Hey, G, can you give me a hand? It's a steep hill." She smiled and held out her small hand. "So, you can go up and down the deadly seaside cliffs with no apparent difficulty, yet you need help with the pedestrian Merian's hill? Well, you know how it is, G." He took her hand, and she curled into him, holding his hand with both of hers. He laughed. "Why don't you tell me how it is?" She blew on his hand, possibly trying to kiss it, but not knowing how to kiss. The spot on his hand where she blew was livid, with coming and going striations of goose flesh. Captain Davidge had told him what it was like to love a Shadowtech female, his Countess Sigillis of Blanchford. When she's heavy in Shadowtech, just holding Sig's hand is a wonderland of sensation. It's like going on a holiday to a very electric place. When I pull my hand away, I see minute little strings of it having passed through her skin and latched on to mine. Imagine getting kicked in the teeth, and imagine further that the kicking feels marvelous. The sister's power within made him sensitive to Shadowtech. He could smell it inside of her, moving around like a great metallic flower, scented in dark perfume. Stenstrom concentrated and silently recited a litany his mother had taught him to ward off carnal delights. About halfway up the hill were a stone column and a small semicircular platform facing the manor below. "What's that?" Kat asked. "That is my mother's graveside." "Why is it built into the side of the hill?" Mother was a stern matriarch. She ran our house with a tight fist. There were 30 of us to manage, but she did it with annoying precision. She taught us all everything she knew. The magic tricks I and Lyra can do are her legacy to us. We placed her gravesite there, specifically on the hill, because it commands the best view of the manor. Even in death, Mother would no doubt wish to watch over the manor she loved. "Do you miss your mother?" "Of course. She could be a demanding, rather difficult person, but I'd have her no other way." "Wish I had a mother. One that I knew anyway. Or a father. My angels, I've always thought of them as my mother and father." Stenstrom embraced Kat. Though small, she felt good in his arms. So different from the much larger Gwen, but no less comforting. There was the Shadowtech again, fragrant and teasing. The powerful urge to give her a kiss returned, but he stuck to the litany and refrained. Kat was still his student and his guest. At the top of the hill were a cluster of stone hut-like structures arranged in a seemingly random pattern, mixed in with a series of tall poles stuck in the ground and a gallery of crude statues. "What are these?" Kat asked, still holding his hand. "Are they ruins, like Clovis?" "Of a sort. These are what remains of an old Merian hermitage. A thriving village of them once lived here atop the hill several hundred years ago. The Pilgrims of Merian are a sect of simple folk, preaching an alternative view of the elders and the history of the League. The ones who lived here moved on long ago. Merians tend to be wanderers. It's a shame they're gone. The Merians are good people." Kat moved among the ruins, taking them in. She climbed up one of the huts and reclined on the cool stone, a sigh escaping her lips. "You love lying on bare rock," Stenstrom said. "Feels perfect to me. A lot better than that crazy bed you want me to sleep on. I could lie here all day." She beckoned. "Come up here, G. Try it. You'll love it." "Thank you, Kat, but no. While we're here, I have a few unannounced tests for you to accomplish. I think you'll enjoy them. First test. Somewhere amid these old structures is a fairly new and rather conspicuous bit of graffiti. I'd like you to locate it and read me what it says." "Okay, but climb up here with me first. Come on, please." He relented and climbed up the old structure, situating himself next to Kat. He used to climb these old huts as a child with Lyra. Here with Kat in the afternoon sun, he felt like a child again. Everything fresh and new. Kat put her arm over his chest, toying with the fabric of his shirt. "Love this place, G. Feels like home. I could close my eyes and have a nice nap." "I'm glad. I want you to feel at home. Go on now. On with the first test." Kat hopped off the hut. Okay, let's see." She wandered around and through the huts. "Not really sure I know what I'm looking for," she said. "You'll know it when you see it." She browsed through the huddle of huts and soon located, right at eye level, a few words crudely cut into the stone. "Not this, is it?" she asked, pointing to the letters. "That's the very one. Well spotted." Kat placed her face near the stone wall of the hut and traced along with her finger. she said, sounding out the first word. La, ear, ra. Cat bounced up and down with excitement, pointing at the word. Lyra! This word says Lyra. Am I right? You certainly are. Well done, Cat. Keep reading. She moved on to the next word. Loves. Loves. The next word is loves. Cat stared at the word and touched it with her hands. Correct again. Cat moved on to the third and final word. Lyra loves Lyra loves Jupiter, Cat said proudly. Very close. It's Jupiter. Lyra loves Jupiter. Ah, how sweet. Who's Jupiter? A boy from Mercia she was keen on when we were children. She lived in terror of our mother discovering that inscription. Did Lyra kiss Jupiter? I imagine she did. Apparently she's kissed quite a few boys. What happened to him? Don't know. He disappeared after a while. Lyra was a rather fickle kid. We can ask her at dinner this evening if you like. Cat put her hand back on the word love. Still waiting for my first kiss, G. He tingled to kiss her, but his litany against desire was working, allowing him to maintain an aloof air. I could go get Lyra and have her give you one. You know what I mean. He wished Cat would just attack him. If she made the first move, he would have an excuse to kiss her. I tell you what, if you can count how many gaffer poles you see here, I'll give you a kiss as a reward. Counting the poles is your second test. Cat gave him a large grin. About damn time. What are these poles for, anyway? The Merians used to wrap canvas around the poles and paint them in bright colors when they were giving service. Cat returned to Stenstrom's side. Count the poles, huh? I expect my kiss to be memorable. She counted the poles, pointing with her finger. 1, 2, 3. Stenstrom nodded as she counted, hoping she would get it right. And then she slowed. 4, 5, 7. Try again. Cat swiped the hair out of her face and cursed. God damn it. Cat, I must ask, who is teaching you to speak this way? What way? The swearing. Is it the cooks? Yeah, I'm going to have a talk with the cooks. Swearing is not ladylike. Please remember that. And I really don't wish to have my kitchen staff cursing like sailors as they go about their day. You have a very impressionable ear right now. I don't want you picking up bad habits. It's fun to swear, G. It's like casting shadow tech, only with your mouth. If at all possible, I'd like you to curb your swearing for the time being. Now please, count the gaffer poles again. You are doing fine. Cat jumped down off the Merian hut and went to the nearest gaffer pole. Well, hell, G, if you want me to stop swearing, you might have to give me a damn reward or something to make me stop. Like what? I don't know. You might have to give me 2 kisses. She banged on the nearest pole. I've been waiting for you to kiss me like I saw the cook and the damn grocery boy doing. If I like kissing, you might have to kiss me all day to make me stop. 1. He sat up, his back aching from the stone. He wanted to kiss her right now. She went to the next pole, and the next, and the next. 2, 3, 4. That kiss better be damn good. The next set of poles was mingled among the old Merian statues. The statues were crude terracotta effigies depicting Merian worshippers and winged seraphs standing over them. Once painted in colorful greens and reds the Merians favored, now faded into a splotchy yellow color. Cat bounded up and banged on one of the poles. 5! She went to the next one and stared at it. 6 always gave her trouble. Come on, Cat, recall your lessons. What comes after 5? Relax and concentrate. Your kiss awaits. Cat cried out in triumph and banged the pole with her fist. 6! Goddamn 6! Ha! The next pole was situated among a group of seraph statues. Cat bounded over to it. He awaited her response. Cat stared at the seraphs, standing locked still, which was unusual for her. She was normally quite fidgety. Cat, he asked, what comes after 6? She didn't respond. He went over to her. She seemed fixated by the statues. These are old statues carved by the Merians. My sister Virginia, who is very close to Lyra and me, used to be afraid of them. She thought they moved around at night and created witch lights, which we sometimes see from our windows, glowing about in the moonlight. No response. Virginia will be visiting soon with her husband, Lord Poole, and their children. I'm eager to introduce you. I'm certain you'll like her. She's a chef by trade. An amazing cook. Kat was staring at the winged seraph, eyes transfixed, mouth hanging open, breath ragged. Are you all right? She slowly reached out and touched the stone wings of the seraph, bird-like, with nested feathers carved in weathered relief. These wings, she whispered. A winged person. I remember wings. Not stone, but shadow tech, feathery, black, flapping, moving across the sky. What about wings, Kat? What are you remembering? Her eyes grew wide. She said something. What? Kat, I didn't understand. Not alone. Not alone. I wasn't alone at Clovis. There were others. There were others with me. You were alone when I arrived. You said you inhabited Clovis alone. Kat shook her head. No, not alone. There were others. I remember them now. Seeing these wings has jarred my memory. How could I have forgotten them? I loved them, G. They were my sisters. They should be here with us, enjoying all of this. Kat sounded desperate. So lonely at Clovis, in the cold, forgotten. She threw her arms around him, her counting lesson forgotten. The prospect of their first kiss also forgotten. Take me there, G. Take me to Clovis, please. I don't want them there alone. Stenstrom steeled himself. Here they were again. Please watch your step. The door to the autocar slowly opened, revealing the reviled green and gold mountainous vault of remote Clovis, frigid in its isolation, haunted in its seclusion, fading into blue haze, the gallery of abandoned buildings scattered out in a grim tableau like a city of the dead. It offered the illusion of silence, of inactivity, but was in fact a vortex of partially heard cries, glimpses of hidden movement from other universes, clashes of steel, and the sounds of people dying replayed endlessly. He could hear it plainly, though he forced himself to dwell on other things. Kat, his sister Lyra, of quitting this area as quickly as possible. Beyond the sad huddle of forgotten places and untrodden pathways once thriving with life was the innocent little path heading up into the mountains, ending abruptly by the reviled doors plunked side by side in the ground like a pair of tombstones, conspicuous as a knife in the chest. The doors, the center of the vortex. He wanted absolutely nothing to do with these doors. Nothing. Best get this over with. Stenstrom got out and put on his HRN and hat. His nth pistols jutted from his sash. Lyra followed him out, her long black hair alive in the mountain wind. She was improperly dressed in her Belmont gown, with bare arms. She shivered and threw on a fur-lined traveling cloak to ward off the cold. Gods, what a place, she said, her cheeks quickly turning rosy in the nippy air. Vifland has always seemed a barren pocket to me. This doesn't even look like Cana. It's Cana, sure enough. Do you need your gloves? Stenstrom asked. Lyra shook her head. No, I want my hands free in case we're attacked. Kat came out last, still in her blue dress, eyes wide, seeing Clovis with terror, hugging herself about the waist. She went to Stenstrom. He put his arms around her. She buried her face in his chest. So, Kat, here we are. Do you need a cloak? No. You say there are several other people here as well? Shadow Tech females like yourself? Crawlers. From Shade Church. Shade Church? Lyra asked. Mother taught us Shade Church is a scion of the Black Hats. Are these people Black Hats? One of them is. Lyra looked about the forlorn ruins. The sisters might have gotten them. I believe their stronghold of Westron isn't too far to the west. Surely they would detect the presence of multiple Shadow Tech females here and investigate. Kat shook her head. Protection. We had protection. The gods gave them to me to protect us from the sisters. What protection? Stenstrom asked. Centrils. From the gods. Lyra looked somewhat astonished. Centrils? Belle, I didn't think centrills existed outside of a storybook. She wiped her red nose. Stenstrom held Kat tight. I didn't think so either. Kat, these people, your sisters, might they have moved on? This place is inhospitable, to say the least. Kat seemed full of guilt. They wanted to leave. I convinced them to stay, she wept. They're still here. Are you sure? She looked up at him, anguished. They're dead, G. They're here in the ruins, dead. If I had let them go where they wanted, maybe they'd still be alive. Why did you want to stay in this desolate place? He asked. Tears fell down Kat's face. She said something, but he didn't understand. He wanted to press Kat further, but she seemed on the edge of delirium. Lyra looked around. Do you know where we should start, Kat? This is a lot of ground to cover. Kat closed her eyes, trying to remember. Everything's coming back to me, but in bits, in flashes. I remember water, the cistern. They moved into the ghostly passes of the ruins. The sound of their passage on the rocky path amplified. Lyra was on edge. She looked at the forgotten buildings and lost avenues. I don't like this place, Belle. I feel like we're being watched. Who knows what sorts are hiding in these buildings, waiting to waylay us. She shook her hand, producing 3 marzible daggers from nowhere. She held them between her fingers like 3 claws, ready to cast. There's nobody here but us, he said, though he felt the same disquiet. In the distance, he thought he heard the doors rattling in their frame. He glanced at his nth pistols. The worn wooden grips jutted from his sash, their humble appearance belying their fearsome killing power. Nothing could stand before his nths. The door spoke to him. Here again? The presence of his pistols comforted him. Come to us. In the center of the ruins, they came upon a fallen-in structure with bare metal beams still partially standing in rusty procession amid stony debris, like the ribs of a decayed animal. Down below was a pit filled with brackish water and fallen stones. Is this the cistern? He asked. Kat nodded. We loved these waters. We played in them. We washed. Lyra glanced down at the filthy, stagnant water littered with fallen debris. She wrinkled her nose at the prospect of bathing in such a cesspool. And who is here? Stenstrom asked. Kat pulled away from his grasp and went to the edge of the pit. Walker! My sister Walker is here! She cast aside her shoes and dove in head first, disappearing under the dark water. Lyra was worried. Belle, this ruin isn't safe. She could get tangled and hung up on any number of hazards beneath the surface. This whole place is a death trap. She seemed to have been under the water for some time. Stenstrom removed his hat. All right, I'm going in after her. Kat exploded from the surface, gasping. With her was a headless, naked mannequin, much larger than herself. She clutched it about the torso, hanging onto it like a buoy. No, it wasn't a mannequin. It was a headless, dead body. Using TK, Stenstrom lifted them both out of the water and onto the ground. Kat clutched at the body, hugging it, weeping uncontrollably. Walker, my sister, I'm sorry I left you here. The body was quite large for a black cat. It was meaty, long-legged, full-figured, and perfectly preserved, probably from the shadow tech within. No blood, no decay, no smell either, save for the brackish scent of being immersed in dirty water. Had the body not been missing its head, it might merely have been asleep. What happened to her? Lyra asked. Autocon killed her. Took her head. She was so beautiful. Stenstrom looked around. He didn't see a severed head about anywhere. Animals probably carried it off. And what happened to the Autocon? He asked. Those are Shadowtech demons, correct? Kat was inconsolable. I killed it with centrills. Walker died defending me. She was the best of us, the strongest, the most beautiful. How could I have forgotten her? Left her in the water. I should have died and she should have lived. You didn't die, Kat. You lived, he said. Whatever overcame your sister didn't overcome you. You survived. You're stronger than you allow yourself credit for. They wrapped the body of Walker in Lyra's cloak and carried her back to the autocar. They opened the boot at the rear of the craft and placed Walker inside. How many more? Stenstrom asked, closing the boot. 2 more. Where? Cat pointed to the ruins up the path to the doors built in the ground. Stenstrom was filled with dread. The same place Gwendolyn died. Stenstrom threw open the doors leading into the earth, saw the familiar uneven stairs going down to the vile darkness. Lyra produced several yellow holy stones, shook them up, and cast them down into the dark. They bounced down the stairs with an energetic rattle, revealing tired, light-starved stone, old mortar, and the empty arch far below, leading into the ground. Nth pistols drawn, Stenstrom looked down, seeing the phantoms of his other selves coming and going from this horrid place in a never-ending stream, hearing their discordant cries. The vision and the noises were so strong here, so profound, he couldn't shut them out. You're certain they're down there? Cat nodded, hanging on to him with all her might. Stenstrom was assaulted by the sights and sounds of other realms, like being forced to watch 1,000 hollows all at once. He spoke, his voice sounding muffled and distant. There is something wrong with this place. I'm seeing glimpses of myself. Other versions of me coming and going like a demented anthill where all the ants are me. Professor Sherlamp might be a madwoman, but perhaps she's correct about different planes of reality coming together here. Lyra, can you feel it? She nodded. Yes, I do. I'm not seeing or hearing anything, but I can feel it sure enough. Cat, are you ready? He asked, sashing one of his pistols. She didn't answer, merely hugged him tighter, most of her small body buried deep within his HRN. Protecting Cat, nth pistol leveled, hammer cocked, Lyra with her Marzible daggers ready, they went down into the dark. Voices assailed him with every step. Glimpses into other universes danced before his eyes. My wife, my father, rescue her, save her, and what of me? Is there no place for me? What of me? He concentrated, shutting out everything as they passed the arch. Rolling several more holy stones in, the place emerged under dim yellow light. A vast man-made chamber lay before them. Rough-hewn walls of stone, covered in murals, aching with the remnants of ancient incense, drifting about. Fallen debris, old dust, and a collision of universes rubbing together, spilling their sordid dioramas about the chamber in an incomprehensible jumble. Nearby, a fluted column situated near the left-hand wall appeared in the light. That column there, that's where we placed the anatometer. It fit right on top. Now it's gone. Over there, Cat said into his chest. They made their way to the column. Stenstrom kicked something on the floor, and it slid with a metallic rasp. Lyra picked up the object. It was a pair of protective goggles. Dirty, scratched, dusted with grit. Cat took the goggles from her with shaking hands. These were gifts from the gods, to protect our eyes when we were not used to the light. It was so bright. Bird wore them all the time, even after we didn't need them any longer. She loved them. And Bird is one of your sisters? He asked. Cat nodded. So gentle, so kind, so skilled with her hands. She couldn't wrestle, but she could make such things. I remember her so clearly now. She made me laugh and smile. How could I have forgotten? Past the column, two black masses lying on the floor emerged in the light of Lyra's holy stones. Two dead bodies, both stuck to the floor like a pair of butchered carcasses. There was dried blood everywhere, splashed on the walls and carpeting the floor in a thick, dark stain. One of the bodies was horribly mangled, a twisting of arms and legs. The other lay supine on its side in the illusion of peace. Stenstrom held Cat back while Lyra investigated. Lyra knelt over one of the bodies, the twisted-up one. Moving her about, it was clear she was skinny and gangly. It's a female. A small shadow mark around her right eye. She's been stabbed dozens of times. Cat wept. Lyra mouthed the words to Stenstrom. She really suffered, Belle. Is that Bird? Stenstrom asked. Cat wiped her tears and nodded. She held the goggles to her heart. Who did this to her? Lyra asked, a questioning look on her face. Kat pointed to the second body, lying in a disaster of dried blood nearby. Wheel killed Bird. She trembled. And then I killed Wheel. Lyra moved down and inspected Wheel's body. Wheel appeared to be a small woman like Kat, but fuller, more filled out, like Walker. Her brown hair was a tangled mess, like Kat's had been. Her throat's been ripped out. Did you do that, Kat? Kat pulled away from Stenstrom and approached Wheel's dead body, her tears wetting the blood. Why, Wheel? We would have loved you, taught you, learned from you, fed you. Why could you get the black hat out of your heart, out of your soul? Bird did it. Walker did it. I did it. Why not you too? Kat seized Wheel by her bare, dead shoulder, shaking her, demanding answers. Why, Wheel? I loved you. All you talked about was becoming a black hat, inflicting pain. If you wanted to be a black hat, why didn't you get in the bloody missile and be a black hat elsewhere? You lied to me when I didn't understand what lying was. And look what you've done. You lied to me, took my sisters from me. Kat's anguish-filled voice echoed around the cavern. Why did you make me kill you? Lyra inspected the pool of blood. She waved a yellow holy stone around. I'm seeing a group of footprints in the blood. Gods, Kat wept. The gods came for me in the dark. The gods? I'm seeing 2 sets of footprints. The impression of a man's shoe, a fairly small size, and a heeled shoe with a tapered front end, like a lady's boot. Looks like they came in, knelt over Kat, and walked back out. These gods seem like flesh and blood people to me. Wonder who they are. Universes clashed before his eyes. He saw them. 2 people, a man and a woman, the man wearing a dark, modest suit, and the woman wearing a shimmering green robe, like a Merian's robe. They went to Kat and held her hand. They wept over her fallen body, their love for her clear. Creation, didn't they seem familiar to him? And then a third person entered, tall, sinister, clad in black, eyes glowing with a purplish light. The third person seemed angry. The man and woman then lifted Kat and carried her out. Whoever these gods were, they were real. They guarded Kat's life. He was grateful to them. Kat pulled him back from his vision. She rocked back and forth, asking the question over and over again. Why, Wheel? Why? Wheel's dead body, missing its throat, gave no reply. Stenstrom placed his hand on his shoulder. Maybe she just didn't have it in her, Kat. Maybe whatever it was that happened to you and these other people, far in the past in the Black Hat's pits, cut too deep, left its mark, starred her too much, damaged her beyond repair. Yet all those things that blackened her heart didn't blacken yours. You had the simple strength to overcome and move on. With your help, these people did too. Maybe this Wheel person just wasn't you, Kat. As the gods had before, Stenstrom and Lyra helped Kat out of the darkness and back into the light of the surface. They placed Bird's body in the autocar's boot next to Walker and covered them. Lyra and Stenstrom got in, ready for a horrid trip back home, sharing the vehicle with dead bodies. When Kat tentatively climbed back in, the autocar reacted. "Weight limit exceeded," the control glyph said. Hearing that seemed to push Kat over some internal cliff. She backed out of the autocar in a demented fog, eyes wide, full of hysteria. She bent over, clutching her waist. "I don't want to be here all alone. All the death in this place." She looked to Stenstrom with pleading eyes. "Don't leave me here, G. Please, don't leave me here." "Of course I'm not leaving you here, Kat. I'll pay the bloody autocar to adjust its carry." "Come on, Kat, get in, it's cold," Lyra said. Kat looked around in a panic, seeing nothing, hearing nothing. She staggered away. "Kat!" Weeping, she formed her Shadowtech armature, crouched down on all fours, and tore off across the ruins, ripping the ground as fast as she could run. Voices assailed her. "Come back. Murderer." Come back here to the dark with us and never leave. The doors. She was heading to the distant doors. No matter how they tried to get away, the doors were always out there, pulling them back, never letting go. She was caught from above, arms around her waist, and lifted into the air. Stenstrom at full TK had her. She struggled and kicked. Where are you going, Cat? Let me go. He soared with her through the clouds and found a flat spot in the mountains far away from Clovis. Cat was trembling. Let me go, G, she sobbed. Why did you run away, Cat? She held out her hands. You saw what I did. I killed with these hands. My sisters are dead. I was going to go below and beg the gods to bring back life to my sisters and take me instead. Stenstrom took her hands. Then I would wait in the dark with you. That's where I was before you came, in darkness, watching one day pass into the next, adding up to nothing. In Clovis, where universes touch and horrors have free lease to roam, you emerged, untainted by it all, given strength through innocence. Come, if you are to hide in the dark, then I will hide with you. Cat looked desperate. I don't want you in the dark, G. I don't want that for you. The gods told me you would come. That's why I waited in Clovis, because that's where they said you would come for me. I waited and waited, wondering what your voice would sound like. If you would be kind, to touch you, to wrestle with you, to put my arms around you. I love you, G. Even before I understood what the word meant, I loved you. And you'll not share my fate. I couldn't bear it. Your fate, Cat, is to come with me home to Tyrol, to climb Merian's hill with me, to read all the books in the library, to swear with the cooks in the kitchens, and unscrew every lid you can get your hands on. Life has returned to Belmont Manor. Leaf and flower bloom. Every new day is a gift to look forward to. You made that possible. Whatever forces conspired to bring us together, I am in their debt. For the strength you had within to endure, I am in your debt. He placed his hands on her face. How I thought I'd never say the words, I love you again. Cat from nowhere, Cat from the ruins, waiting for me, Cat who had the strength to survive. I love you, Cat. And they kissed for the first time, he parting her lips, taking her into his arms, trading the cold loneliness of the mountains for warmth and love. Weeks later, new monuments were placed atop Merian's hill. One was placed at the northern end of the hill, with a wonderful view of Tyrol village down the lane to the north. The inscription on the stone read, Mountain Walker, the strongest of us. Nearby, another stone was placed. Several hollows were cut into the stone, allowing room for birds to make nests. Already a swallow had moved in, making a nest. The inscription on the stone read, Bird, the gentlest of us. And nearby was a third new stone. The inscription read, Wheel, she has been forgiven. And with that, we conclude Chapter 7, Those Who Were Remembered. And we also conclude Part 3 of the book, Cat. Next week, we proceed to Part 4, the final part of the book, Bella Thouser. We've seen the genesis of Cat from a crazy tangled crawler in the Shade Church, their initial meeting at Clovis, all the crazy doings in camera, and the eventual union of these two people, of Cat and Lord Belmont. Everything took a while to happen, but it happened finally, and these two have found each other. And so now in the fourth part, we will see what they can do as a team. So then, until next week, this is Ren Presents. I'm your host, Ren. Peace out.